I never thought I'd be the one sitting quietly while everyone else danced around their little schemes. Evelyn whispered to herself as she straightened the silver candlesticks on the dining table, the soft glow of the chandelier reflecting off her perfectly polished china. It was supposed to be a celebratory evening. Melissa, her daughter-in-law, had invited her for a special family dinner, claiming it was to honor Evelyn's recent retirement and decades of dedication to the family. The smell of roasted chicken and fresh-baked bread filled the warm kitchen, but Evelyn's eyes caught tiny inconsistencies. The way Melissa's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. The way she casually shifted the seating arrangements as though positioning pieces on a chessboard. Evelyn's heart beat steadily, not with panic, but with a calm awareness that she had learned to cultivate over years of raising children and managing a household. She noticed the subtle tension in the room as her grandchildren fidgeted in their chairs, sensing the undercurrents of control their mother was trying to assert. Evelyn poured herself a glass of sparkling water, listening to the clink of ice against the crystal, each sound grounding her in the present moment. Melissa approached, a polite smile masking intentions Evelyn had seen before in whispered conversations and hushed phone calls. "Mom, I wanted this dinner to show how much we appreciate everything you've done for us," Melissa said. But Evelyn, with decades of experience reading between the lines, knew that gratitude could be a mask, often worn to cover impatience or even manipulation. The first course arrived, crispy skinned chicken with a hint of rosemary and a side of buttery mashed potatoes, and Evelyn found herself quietly observing rather than partaking fully, watching how Melissa subtly encouraged her husband to take the lead in conversation while positioning herself as the gracious hostess. Evelyn noticed the patterns, the way compliments were calculated, the timing of laughs, the little gestures designed to highlight her control over the family's perception. She sipped her water slowly, her calm demeanor like a mirror reflecting Melissa's forced cheerfulness back at her. There was no need for confrontation tonight. Evelyn understood the power of patience, of stepping back while letting the truth reveal itself in the unfolding evening. Every glance, every soft laugh, every careful word from Melissa was cataloged in Evelyn's mind, not with bitterness, but with clarity and strategic foresight. By the time dessert, a rich chocolate cake with fresh strawberries, was served, Evelyn felt the satisfaction of having remained composed, knowing that the subtle inconsistencies she had observed would not go unnoticed by other family members. She allowed herself a small, contented smile as she realized that sometimes the most powerful response was not to chase, not to argue or correct, but simply to step back and watch the narrative unfold, confident in her insight and her dignity, letting the evening speak truths that words might never capture. As the conversation continued around the dining table, Evelyn noticed how Melissa carefully directed the flow of conversation, subtly inserting topics that emphasized her own achievements and framed Evelyn as the quiet observer rather than the center of attention. Evelyn watched as her grandchildren laughed at jokes that seemed rehearsed, the timing a little too perfect, revealing the effort Melissa had put into orchestrating the moment. The warmth of the candlelight did nothing to soften the edges of tension that Evelyn could sense beneath the surface. She maintained her calm, her posture straight and her hands resting lightly on the tablecloth, giving no hint of the thoughts swirling in her mind. Every carefully placed comment from Melissa, every polite nod, every exaggerated expression of surprise or delight was recorded silently by Evelyn, who had long ago learned the power of quiet observation. She noticed the subtle ways Melissa redirected questions toward her husband, ensuring that Evelyn would answer less and Melissa would shine more, a pattern Evelyn had seen many times before but never fully exposed until the right moment. The side dishes of roasted vegetables and freshly baked rolls were passed around, and Evelyn took the opportunity to observe her son, who seemed caught between loyalty and hesitation, reflecting the unspoken dynamics of a family well-practiced in politeness, yet fraught with hidden motives. Evelyn's eyes met Melissa's briefly across the table, and she offered a small, polite smile that masked an understanding far deeper than the casual glance suggested. In that brief exchange, Evelyn conveyed both patience and awareness, a message that her insight was not to be underestimated. As the meal progressed, the flow of conversation remained carefully controlled by Melissa, but Evelyn remained anchored in her own space, speaking only when necessary and doing so with deliberate clarity, making each comment count without offering unnecessary engagement. The dessert plates arrived, adorned with fruit, and a light drizzle of sauce, and Evelyn observed how Melissa's gestures and words subtly hinted at her own meticulous planning and desire to be seen as thoughtful and generous. Yet, the more Melissa tried to shape perception, the more Evelyn's quiet presence highlighted the contrasts between performance and sincerity. Evelyn continued to note these differences internally, knowing that her calm assessment and measured responses created a presence that was difficult to ignore. Even the smallest actions, the placement of a fork, a pause before answering a question, the way a hand rested on the table, spoke volumes to someone who knew how to read the room. Evelyn's awareness extended to the smallest details, cataloging behaviors, expressions, and choices, preparing herself for a time when her strategic patience would turn observations into understanding. By the end of the evening, Evelyn felt a quiet sense of accomplishment, having maintained her composure while seeing the subtle truths of human behavior unfold naturally around her, reaffirming the importance of patience, perception, and measured response in maintaining dignity and insight within her family. Evelyn cleared her plate with a gentle grace, placing the fork beside the dessert plate and allowing a moment of quiet to settle over the table. She could feel the subtle shifts in the atmosphere as family members adjusted to the ebb and flow of the evening, sensing that something unspoken hovered just beneath the surface. Melissa continued to smile and direct attention, but Evelyn noticed a slight tension in the way her hands rested on the table, a small sign that not everything was as seamless as it appeared. Evelyn's eyes drifted to her son, who seemed to sense the subtle undercurrents as well, offering quiet nods and occasional glances that spoke of unspoken agreements and shared histories. Throughout the conversation, Evelyn remained composed, contributing thoughtful responses only when necessary, each word measured and deliberate. She observed how Melissa had organized the seating, ensuring that Evelyn sat at the corner rather than the center, and she noted the way Melissa's tone shifted slightly depending on which family member she addressed, revealing priorities and intentions that were not immediately visible. As the evening progressed, Evelyn reflected on past experiences, remembering similar gatherings where appearances masked motives, and she drew from that memory to guide her present responses, ensuring that every interaction preserved her dignity while providing insight into others' behaviors. The aroma of coffee and freshly baked apple pie filled the air, a comforting backdrop that contrasted with the subtle intricacies of family dynamics unfolding before her. Evelyn sipped her coffee slowly, allowing the warmth to anchor her focus as she continued to watch and listen, noting the small gestures, fleeting expressions, and carefully chosen words that revealed the true nature of the interactions around her. Melissa attempted to highlight her own thoughtfulness through compliments and carefully timed humor, yet Evelyn's calm presence acted as a quiet mirror, reflecting the authenticity of her own demeanor against the calculated efforts around her. Even in the moments of laughter and light conversation, Evelyn's mind cataloged details, the way a hand lingered on the back of a chair, the subtle timing of shared glances, and the pauses that spoke louder than words. Every observation was stored as part of a larger understanding, a mental map of social cues and intentions that would serve her in moments where clarity and foresight were required. By the end of the dessert course, Evelyn felt a quiet satisfaction, having maintained her composure while discerning the nuances of her family's interactions, knowing that her measured patience and keen observation would guide her next steps with confidence and poise, allowing her to navigate the complexities of the evening with insight and dignity. Evelyn rose slightly from her chair as the final remnants of dessert were cleared away, offering a gentle nod of gratitude to the family members who had served with careful attention. The soft hum of conversation continued around her, punctuated by occasional laughter that seemed to ripple a little too perfectly through the dining room, revealing a layer of orchestration beneath the surface. Evelyn's mind remained alert, noting how Melissa skillfully guided the topics of discussion, turning each exchange into a subtle demonstration of control and influence. Her son seemed caught between admiration for his wife and a quiet recognition of Evelyn's composed presence, glancing toward his mother with expressions that conveyed both reassurance and curiosity. Evelyn carefully examined the interactions of her grandchildren, recognizing patterns in their responses to guidance and praise that mirrored the behaviors she had witnessed during family gatherings in the past. The way Melissa arranged the chairs, positioned herself to engage each participant strategically, and timed her comments to encourage specific reactions all spoke to her intent to shape perceptions in the room. Evelyn responded with calm observation, offering occasional words of warmth and encouragement that were genuine and unforced, each contribution carefully measured to preserve her dignity while subtly asserting her awareness. As plates were removed and soft clinking of silverware echoed, Evelyn observed how the natural lighting of the chandelier highlighted the subtle expressions of each person, capturing fleeting moments of sincerity alongside rehearsed gestures. Melissa's attempts to emphasize her own role in orchestrating the evening were apparent, yet Evelyn's composed and deliberate engagement created a balance that could not be overshadowed. Evelyn's reflections drifted to memories of past family gatherings, where she had learned to discern authenticity from performance, and she drew on that experience to guide her approach in the present moment. Every slight gesture, shift in posture, and nuanced tone was cataloged in her awareness, providing insight into relationships and intentions without confrontation or judgment. Evelyn sipped her tea, allowing the warmth and aroma to anchor her focus, while her serene presence offered a quiet contrast to the calculated energy around the table. By the end of the evening, as soft conversation began to dwindle and the room settled into a gentle calm, Evelyn felt a deep sense of clarity and accomplishment, having maintained her composure and observed the subtle intricacies of the evening with patience and insight, understanding that her awareness and measured approach had allowed her to navigate the complexities of family interactions gracefully and confidently. Evelyn remained seated as the family slowly rose from the table, her posture graceful and composed, observing how Melissa moved with precise attentiveness to clear the remaining dishes and gather cups of tea. The room was bathed in the soft glow of the chandelier, and the gentle hum of conversation had shifted to lighter, more casual remarks as the evening transitioned toward its conclusion. Evelyn's eyes caught the subtle ways Melissa continued to influence the room, positioning herself to engage with family members strategically while maintaining a veneer of warmth and care. Evelyn allowed herself a quiet smile, recognizing the effort and noticing the faint strain that accompanied such meticulous orchestration. Her son lingered nearby, glancing occasionally toward his mother, his expressions reflecting a mixture of appreciation and unspoken awareness of the underlying dynamics. Evelyn took a slow sip of her tea, savoring the flavor and the calm that it brought, while mentally cataloging each small interaction, gesture, and carefully timed comment. The grandchildren laughed over stories from the day, unaware of the nuances their mother had orchestrated, and Evelyn watched with a gentle understanding, noting the contrast between natural spontaneity and calculated behavior. Melissa offered compliments and shared anecdotes that highlighted her attentiveness and thoughtfulness, yet Evelyn's composed presence subtly reminded the room of the authenticity that comes with years of experience and observation. Each word Evelyn spoke was deliberate, her tone warm and measured, reinforcing her dignity while allowing Melissa to reveal herself through actions and intent without confrontation. As plates were cleared and chairs adjusted, Evelyn noted the rhythm of interactions, how pauses and slight expressions revealed more than words ever could, and she maintained her calm focus, aware that her quiet engagement held its own weight in the dynamics of the evening. The soft lighting accentuated expressions and gestures, and Evelyn's careful attention to detail allowed her to see through the layers of performance around her. In that observation, she found reassurance, knowing that remaining poised and attentive granted her insight that was more valuable than any immediate reaction. As family members began to gather belongings and prepare to leave the dining area, Evelyn remained composed, acknowledging each gesture and word with grace, her awareness of the subtle currents guiding her responses. She understood that influence did not always require overt action. Patience and perception were powerful tools in navigating family relationships. By the time the evening wound down completely, Evelyn had maintained her composure, quietly noted the unfolding truths of interactions, and felt a sense of satisfaction knowing that her measured, thoughtful approach had preserved her dignity while providing clarity and understanding for future encounters. Evelyn remained in the dining room long after the plates had been cleared, her eyes moving across the room as she quietly absorbed the subtle dynamics that had unfolded during the evening. Melissa busied herself with arranging leftover cups and napkins, her careful movements and polite conversation attempting to project an image of effortless control and attentiveness. Evelyn's calm presence created a quiet counterbalance, each measured gesture and softly spoken word reinforcing her observant authority without the need for confrontation. She noticed how Melissa positioned herself between family members, engaging each person with a practiced attentiveness, and yet Evelyn could detect the faint strain in the fluidity of those interactions, the tiny inconsistencies that revealed underlying intentions. Her son stood nearby, exchanging brief smiles and quiet remarks with Evelyn that suggested mutual understanding, a subtle acknowledgement of her insight into the family dynamics that were otherwise veiled behind politeness. Evelyn continued to sip her tea, savoring both the flavor and the grounding effect it brought, her mind cataloging every nuance of body language, tone, and expression that had surfaced during the evening. Melissa attempted to highlight her own thoughtfulness through careful phrasing and timing, yet Evelyn's composed demeanor allowed the natural contrast between authenticity and calculation to become evident to those attuned to subtle cues. The grandchildren, unaware of the intricate dance occurring around them, moved freely, their genuine reactions providing a natural rhythm to the room that Evelyn observed with gentle appreciation. Evelyn's reflections wandered through memories of past family events, recognizing recurring patterns and noting the evolution of certain behaviors over time, each insight strengthening her understanding of how to navigate future gatherings with clarity and poise. As soft conversation drifted toward closing remarks and the hum of the chandelier's light reflected on polished surfaces, Evelyn noticed how every small gesture and expression contributed to a layered understanding of intentions and relationships. She remained patient, careful not to interject unnecessarily, allowing each interaction to reveal its own truths organically. Even as Melissa concluded her remarks and the family prepared to move toward other rooms, Evelyn's presence remained grounded, her awareness creating a subtle authority that did not rely on words but on measured, deliberate observation. By the end of the evening, Evelyn felt a profound sense of assurance, having maintained her composure while quietly observing the unfolding subtleties of her family's interactions, confident that her thoughtful, attentive approach had provided insight and preserved her dignity in a way that would guide future moments with clarity and quiet strength. Evelyn lingered in the softly lit dining room as the last echoes of conversation faded into gentle quiet, her posture calm and deliberate, each movement measured with the grace that came from years of experience navigating family dynamics. Melissa continued to engage with a few lingering guests, her voice light and polished, yet Evelyn could sense the subtle effort behind the cordiality, the careful timing of questions, and the strategically placed smiles that revealed an underlying intent to manage impressions. Evelyn's son offered a warm glance in her direction, a silent acknowledgement of the awareness and insight that she carried with quiet authority, understanding the delicate balance that governed interactions in this space. She observed how Melissa adjusted her seating, leaned in to emphasize points, and directed attention toward specific individuals, noting each calculated nuance while maintaining her composed demeanor. Evelyn sipped her tea slowly, allowing the warmth to provide both comfort and clarity, and mentally cataloged every gesture, expression, and tone, building a quiet map of behaviors that would inform her understanding of family dynamics for the future. The grandchildren, happily engaged in playful conversation, moved through the room with natural spontaneity, providing a contrast to the subtle orchestration around them, and Evelyn watched with gentle amusement, appreciating their authenticity amidst the carefully structured environment. She noted the subtle interplay of body language between Melissa and other family members, the brief hesitations, the slight adjustments in posture, and the cadence of responses, each detail contributing to a deeper comprehension of intentions and relationships. Evelyn spoke with calm precision when engaged, her words warm, considerate, and deliberate, reinforcing her presence without overpowering the space, allowing the natural unfolding of the evening to reveal truths quietly and organically. As the evening drew to a close, Evelyn felt a sense of satisfaction. Having maintained her dignity while observing the layers of interaction with attentive care, recognizing how patience, perception, and quiet strength could navigate the intricate tapestry of family life. The gentle glow of the chandelier highlighted fleeting expressions and subtle motions, and Evelyn's awareness allowed her to perceive meaning beyond the surface of polite conversation. Each smile, nod, and gesture was noted, not with judgment, but with clarity, building insight that would guide her approach in future gatherings. By the time the last guest prepared to leave, Evelyn felt grounded, her presence a subtle reminder of calm composure and perceptive awareness. Understanding that her quiet observation and strategic patience provided a powerful means of influence, preserving her dignity while revealing the true character of those around her in a manner both thoughtful and deliberate. Evelyn remained seated as the room slowly emptied, the quiet settling around her like a soft blanket, giving her the opportunity to reflect on the evening with deliberate clarity. Melissa continued to interact with a few remaining guests, her movements and words polished. Yet Evelyn could perceive the subtle effort required to maintain the impression of effortless grace. Her son lingered nearby, casting occasional glances toward his mother, silently, acknowledging the awareness and composure she maintained, understanding that her presence shaped the atmosphere more than any overt action could. Evelyn observed the small gestures of Melissa as she adjusted seating, refilled drinks, and guided conversation, noting the careful timing, the nuanced smiles, and the subtle shifts in posture that revealed underlying intention. She sipped her tea with measured calm, letting the warmth center her focus while cataloging the interactions of the evening, each movement, glance, and tone contributing to her understanding of the social currents at play. The grandchildren, now gathered around a small table playing quietly, provided a natural and unguarded contrast to the calculated energy of the adults, and Evelyn watched with gentle amusement, appreciating their authenticity in the midst of the orchestrated environment. Evelyn's reflections traced the subtle layers of family dynamics, recognizing patterns in behavior that had repeated over years of gatherings, and she drew on this knowledge to guide her responses with discretion and tact. Each soft-spoken comment she offered carried warmth and precision, reinforcing her composed presence and allowing the truths of the evening to reveal themselves organically. The chandelier cast a gentle glow across the room, illuminating expressions and gestures that might have otherwise gone unnoticed, and Evelyn's observant nature captured the meaning behind each small detail without judgment, building insight for future occasions. As Melissa completed her attentiveness to the remaining tasks, Evelyn noted the difference between performance and sincerity, the careful orchestration juxtaposed with moments of genuine interaction, understanding the subtle power of presence and perception. Evelyn maintained her calm posture and deliberate engagement, letting the natural flow of the evening highlight contrasts while providing her with a clear view of intentions and character. By the time the final guest prepared to depart, Evelyn felt a quiet sense of accomplishment, having navigated the complexities of social interaction with patience, observation, and strategic composure, her dignity preserved while gaining a deeper understanding of the family's subtle dynamics and the ways in which measured awareness could shape perception and influence outcomes in a thoughtful and effective manner. Evelyn finally stood as the last guest waved goodbye, the soft click of the front door signaling the quiet close of the evening. She walked slowly to the living room, her hands lightly resting on the back of a chair as she reflected on the interactions she had observed, each detail from the carefully managed conversations to the subtle expressions etched across faces cataloged in her mind. Melissa had worked diligently to maintain the impression of effortless charm, guiding discussions and gestures with precision, yet Evelyn's steady presence had provided a contrasting lens through which the evening's authenticity could be measured. Her son lingered beside her, offering a small, appreciative smile, the silent communication between them acknowledging the understanding they shared without words. Evelyn moved to the window, gazing at the calm night sky, the moonlight casting a gentle glow that mirrored the clarity she felt within. She reflected on the careful orchestration of the evening, the rehearsed laughter and strategically timed compliments, recognizing both the intent behind them and the underlying currents they could not conceal. Every small gesture, how a hand rested on a table, the tilt of a head, the pauses before a response, had spoken volumes, and Evelyn's attentive mind had taken note of each, creating a subtle map of the family dynamics she navigated so skillfully. She thought of her grandchildren, their unguarded laughter and spontaneous remarks providing a natural rhythm amidst the orchestrated efforts of the adults, a reminder of authenticity and genuine connection. Evelyn's own responses throughout the evening had been measured and deliberate, offering warmth, encouragement, and engagement without giving away her full perception of the subtle maneuvers at play. The soft clinking of remaining cups and the faint aroma of the day's desserts lingered in the room, grounding her attention and reinforcing the serenity she maintained. Melissa moved past with a final gesture of politeness, and Evelyn noted the slight shift in demeanor, a subtle hint that her presence had influenced the tone of the evening in ways unspoken but deeply felt. Evelyn considered the knowledge gained from this observation, understanding that true insight comes from quiet attentiveness, patience, and an awareness that allows events to unfold naturally, revealing the character of those around her without direct confrontation. As she prepared to leave the dining area, Evelyn felt a profound sense of satisfaction, knowing that her dignity had remained intact, her awareness had provided clarity, and the evening's subtle lessons would guide her interactions with grace, strategic composure, and measured confidence in all future family gatherings.